For those who served in Vietnam, today is a special day. It marks the first day New Zealanders fought against the North Vietnamese 50 years ago. And for one Canterburyan, the memories are just as strong as ever. Jared McCulloch explains.
On this day 50 years ago marks the first battle of New Zealand troops in the Vietnam War, with this country working alongside the United States and Australia. And Edward Gorman says it doesn't feel like that long at all.
Not really. It doesn't seem that long because there's always something that jogs your memory, you know, whether it's on the television or radio or whatever.
Edward is 80 years old. He lives with his wife Irene in a small flat in Christchurch, but his journey doesn't start here. This is a bit of a love story. Edward grew up in Wolverhampton in the UK, and at the age of 17 he wanted to travel the world. And the best way back in the day was to join the armed forces, but he was too young, wanting to go to Korea. So, after trying and trying, he jumped on a boat and headed to Singapore, working in the support crew in Malaya, where he met the love of his life, Irene.
We supplied food to the orphanages and places like that, you know, and they were grateful, but it was never enough, you know. We could never do enough, you see, because there was a lot of things going on.
But he had to go back to the UK and couldn't afford to see Irene again. However, they met up many years later, got married, had children, and have been together ever since. Then Vietnam started. He was told,
"Don't expect to go to Vietnam because you need it here more, and you'll be staying here," you know. And it wasn't a few months later on, I was called in again for an interview with the company commander, and he said to me, "Gorman, you're going to Singapore, pack your things, you know, and tell your wife and your family you'll be going in a week's time."
So he went and served there for just over a year, from October 1969 to November 1970, an experience he'll never forget.
A lot of people got hurt, and you know, soldiers say, you know, they want to go over to a place like Vietnam and fight and do this, but it's not all about fighting. You know, there's a lot of other things involved in wars, and there's people, you know, there's children, there's grown-ups, there's aged people. Everybody's involved. You can't go into a war and not get involved. You know, you have to try and do your best under the circumstances.
He arrived on the shores of Vietnam a few years after 1965, when the first New Zealand troops fought, aged 35. He took care of the soldiers by cooking food as a chef, but he and everyone else also served there for one purpose: to fight.
Now, whether you liked it or not, this was your main role. And if you had to pick up a gun, you had to pick up a gun. You know, you didn't go over there to become a chef, you know, and think that, you know, you're not going to get near, you're not going to get hurt. A lot of the corps personnel that was over there supporting the infantry did actually go out on patrols with the infantry and did do what was needed or necessary.
After 50 years, he says it's hard to look back on.
You never achieve anything by war. That's a sad part about it, you know. Wars are just a necessity for people who want to create havoc among other people.
After Vietnam, he moved to New Zealand with his family.
I went back to the camp in Singapore. I did, to the New Zealand Regiment's camp, and I was then. I had about 2 or 3 weeks holiday, and I was put on a plane with the family back to New Zealand.
Now retired, he stays active and plays a bit of golf, but he doesn't regret anything.
I wouldn't change it, never change it, you know, not for anything. My life's been good, you know, not all the time has the army been, you know, how to put it, a place that I'd, you know, sometimes you get the feeling, I wish I was out of here, you know. But at the end of the day, the army has been good to me. These wars that we've been having and everything else that goes with violence, you know, it should never happen, you know. But there's no way you're going to stop that, you know. Maybe one day somebody will come up with something, but I don't think it's going to happen in the future.
It's a day to remember for Edward, 50 years on. Jared McCulloch, CTV News.